I'm Dave Munger. Thank you all for being here. I am the chair of the Pikes Peak, or the co-chair actually, of the Pikes Peak Regional Stormwater Task Force, and since I did that chair business wrong, my fellow co-chair is standing right there, Brian Risley. We are here today because the people deserve the truth about this stormwater situation. Our task force is made up primarily of citizens, and we have volunteered our time over the last 2 years asking our fellow citizens if stormwater is important and what they want to do about it. We are disappointed, very disappointed, in the mayor's rhetoric and his remarks this morning, in which he conveyed all sorts of misinformation which we'll address, and questioned the integrity of this process and just about everybody involved with it. We are very proud of the 2-year process that led to the proposal now under consideration by elected officials and soon to be considered by voters. The task force has conducted a dozen town hall meetings to hear from the public. We've sent out weekly updates. We've had our monthly task force meetings open to the public, and we've placed calls to hundreds of citizens to ask them if flooding is an important issue and how they want to address that issue. We are about transparency. We're not about dictatorship. Our plan directly reflects what the citizens say they want. This has been the most thorough, transparent public process that we know of. Certainly the most thorough, transparent public process I've ever had the pleasure and privilege of being a part of. And we know that process will continue to extend to the development of the ballot language. For the mayor to say otherwise is simply absurd. The mayor says this isn't good for citizens, but it is citizens that came up with this proposal. We don't buy Father knows best. The mayor is obviously confused about the mechanics of our plan. If you listen to him, if you really listen to him, he doesn't make much sense, and he contradicts himself so many times it's hard to know where to start. But we'd like to set the record straight on each of his accusations. Taxes and fees are clearly defined under state statutes and court rulings. We are proposing a fee. We're proposing a fee because citizens indicated a preference for fees over taxes. We're not creating a bureaucracy. Our plan has been crafted with an eye toward efficient and fair use of citizen dollars, capping administrative costs as we do with the PPRTA at 1%, and keeping staff to a minimum. Our plan sends work to local contractors, creating jobs. Our plan includes a project list developed by citizens and city and county staff and vetted by a third-party engineering firm, one which the mayor participated in choosing. Again, because citizens want to know what they will be paying for. An emergency fund allows us to quickly respond to the kinds of unexpected problems we've seen happen again. The mayor of Manitou Springs is here. He's had a lot of familiarity with unexpected problems in flooding. We've seen those problems happen again and again these past few summers. This emergency fund also was vetted by citizens. The mayor is wrong. This does help roads and other infrastructure. Uncontrolled stormwater creates erosion. It leads to sinkholes. It leads to foundation damage, all of which have been undermining our roads and bridges for years. It's time to stop putting Band-Aids, even with help from the federal government. It's time to stop putting Band-Aids on these problems and address the underlying issues. The $46 million that the mayor likes to say the city is spending on stormwater includes a lot of one-time emergency funding from state and federal agencies and Colorado Springs utilities. We will not be able to sustain this funding in the future, and we'd be foolish to rely on it, to continue to rely on it or the federal government for that sort of help. Our plan creates a flexible, reliable funding source that will allow the city to actually address the problems that we're facing and keep up with maintenance, taking care of what we have. We have not stipulated that the county treasurer will collect the fee we're proposing. A vendor might do that if it's more affordable. If the treasurer does get selected to collect the fee, the treasurer will charge a maximum of 1.5% for the service, just as they currently charge the city, the library district, and schools for their services. The mayor compared our plan to the PPRTA. We'd like to remind him that voters overwhelmingly extended the PPRTA last November because they like the way it works. The Stormwater Authority will be governed by a board that includes officials from all participating communities. All of us know, all the viewers out there, all of us in this room, every citizen knows that water doesn't stop at the Welcome to Colorado Springs sign. We're surprised that the mayor said he thinks the city is doing a good job of managing stormwater. As we've been pointing out in our task force meetings, the American Society of Civil Engineers gave our stormwater systems a D-. Individual homeowners are now appealing to the press to get the city to fix languishing stormwater problems, as we saw in last week's Independent. Unfortunately, the press cannot take up the cases of every single project in our $706 million backlog. The ballot language will be considered at public hearings August 19th and August 26th. The county is committed to clear language. They've made that very, very clear. We realize now that the mayor isn't interested in collaborating, but this has been a collaborative process with input from citizens, elected officials, the executive branch of the city, engineers, economists, business owners, and many others. We believe this is the best opportunity to address this critical community need that is jeopardizing our safety and our economy. We are tired of the mayor's rhetoric when it comes to this and when we're trying to get some work done. We trust that the workers will, let me start that over. We trust that the voters will assess our plan on the facts. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Commissioner Heisey to make some brief remarks now, too.
Thank you, Dave. I just have a couple of issues that I'm going to address, and others behind me here will be addressing others. Dave touched on the $600,000 figure that was thrown out there irresponsibly this morning. Stated that money would go to the county, go to the general fund. There is nothing in the IGA that says the county will be collecting this money. The new regional board will make the decision who will be collecting. They will use the most cost-effective mechanism possible to collect this fee. If it does happen to be the county treasurer, we have had conversations with the treasurer-elect, reference him that way because he is unopposed, even though there's still an election coming up. And he has assured us that he would charge no more than what his actual expenses are in collecting that fee. So even if the county treasurer were to be the mechanism to collect this fee, the number would be significantly smaller than the $600,000 that was bandied about this morning. There's been some concern about emergency money not being available to the member entities, that the RDA board would be controlling that money. And I want to assure the citizens that the first responders will still respond just as they always have in the past. No matter where the emergency is, we all work together. We all run to Manitou Springs. We all run to the Black Forest Fire. Those types of responses will continue. Those agreements are in place. What is different now is the member entities will have the ability to come to the RDA board and say, this was a legitimate emergency. Will you reimburse me for this? And so the members now have the ability to actually be reimbursed for those responses, both in their own municipality and those as they're responding as mutual aid. And furthermore, we have a maintenance of effort here in the IGA where each member entity has to spend a certain amount of money on stormwater in their own jurisdictions, and that money remains completely under the discretion of each member, whether it's a city, the county, Green Mountain Falls, any one of them. So that money is still 100% available for them to spend on these types of first response emergencies if they choose to do so. Dave?
Thank you. And President King of City Council.
Thank you. Well, I'm very sad to report to you today that the actions of the mayor today were deliberate. They misrepresented the truth, and they're trying to misrepresent what we are trying to do for the citizens of Colorado Springs. He is trying to sabotage a true effort to solve this particular issue, and I'm extremely disappointed in his actions. We were told by the mayor today that council does not represent the citizens of the city of Colorado Springs. There is nothing that could be further from the truth. We have been an active council that has given many, many opportunities for public input and for an opportunity for the people and the citizens to come and talk to us about their issues. We are continuing to do that, and we'll be very active as a council to make sure that we give an opportunity for people to have public input. I am proud of the fact that this is a regional effort, that we have come together with the county and with the other communities in the Pikes Peak region, and we are working together to solve a regional issue. This is not a city issue. And as we represent the people of the city of Colorado Springs, we are willing to stretch out our hand and work with our neighbors and be good citizens. I talked to Sal Pace today about this effort, and he sent this following email to me, text to me, and it indicates the willingness of them to work with us and whatever we can do to help them. And he basically said that what we are doing here in Colorado Springs is taking on the responsibility of our citizens and our city to make sure that we are good neighbors for the city and county of Colorado Springs, for Pueblo. So I appreciate the efforts of what we are doing together regionally to accomplish good things for this area. And I think it's time for us to put aside the bickering about what we think is important or not important and come together and collaborate. We had 2 meetings that were unprecedented really toward the end of this process. We invited the mayor to attend both of them. He chose not to attend one of them, and he chose to attend the other one. He fully understands that we were collaborative with him and also listening to him and willing to talk to him and try to find a solution that he could be involved in. And I'm very disappointed that he has chosen not to be involved. And I would hope that he would just continue to try to sabotage this effort and be honest with the citizens of the city of Colorado Springs. Thank you very much.
And then Commissioner Lathan.
Thank you. We do appreciate your time so that we have an opportunity to share the factual information with the citizens, because it is the citizens who will make a decision as to whether or not this authority will go forward. I simply want to share a few things to include the fact that this entire process has been in the making for 2 years. It actually began with a representative from the mayor on the task force at the Sand Creek Summit some 2 years ago, representing the mayor's office, who was involved at that time through his staff. There has been a chair at every meeting for the mayor. That chair has been empty at most of those meetings, but he has been a part of that if he chooses. And some months ago, when the mayor rolled out his plan for dealing with stormwater to include repurposing of some bonds and a sales tax increase for the community to address a number of different issues to include stormwater, we met with him, a number of people met with him, to look at both plans and decide what made most sense for the people. And ultimately, the task force recommendation is what is very likely to go forward to the public for consideration in a couple of weeks. The mayor has talked this morning and yesterday about this being a tax increase. Indeed, this is a request for more revenue from the citizens of this community, but it is a fee. It is not a tax, and although it is new revenue from the citizens, the law does make a specific distinction between the two. And if it were a tax, then tax-exempt entities throughout our community would not pay into this system. That would include governmental facilities, nonprofit organizations, military organizations as examples. With a fee, all of those entities will participate in this program because, of course, water does not recognize the rooftops of a nonprofit or a military installation versus a private residence. And so we are looking to make this regional. There were very specific reasons, as I just articulated, that the fee route was chosen by this task force, and so even though we acknowledge that we are asking citizens to be a part of this solution with new revenue, indeed, that fee solution offers a variety of more broad options for the task force. We're very excited to go forward with disseminating the facts about this proposal.
And then, Councilmember Martin.
Thanks, everybody. I don't really have too much to add from what's already been said. I think Dave summed up well the points from the Stormwater Task Force. I've served on the task force for well over the last year, and I guess I just want to say today that this is really about solving a stormwater problem for our community. We've had it for many years. We've tried to solve it at different times, and I think we've noticed, particularly over the last few years since the fires we've had the last couple years, just absolutely the importance of getting this solved. And we brought together the citizens, we brought together the community, we brought together the region, all in an effort to solve this problem. We believe we have a good solution. We definitely will look to the voters to help us make the final decision, but we believe that this is really bottom line about solving stormwater. We are bringing forward a plan that we believe is a good solution for the region, and we hope everyone will support it.
Councilmember Miller.
Hi. I don't want to rehash a lot of the things that have been said, but I think one thing that's very important to state is that the mayor asserted that the city would lose its ability to manage its own stormwater. And I think this IGA and the people who participated in the crafting of it wanted to make sure that if the city had the infrastructure, or the member entities had the infrastructure and the staff in place, that they could manage their own stormwater operations and maintenance. And this agreement doesn't preclude that. All it requires is that the city be accountable to the funding that's used for it. And I think that's why PPRTA has been so successful, is because the PPRTA is held to account to the citizens, and that's what has made it successful. So by no means does the city lose its ability to manage its own stormwater issues. You know, there's been discussion about why it's 20 years versus 10. I think when you look at the enormity of the stormwater problem, the mayor's own study that he paid for, we all paid for, $535 million in required stormwater infrastructure that is not been attended to. This is not a 10-year process. This is a much longer process. So it requires a longer, coordinated, prioritized, regionalized effort, and that's what this is all about. You know, the mayor, and I've got to revisit this even though President King did, the assertion that our own city councilors don't represent our city, frankly, should be offensive to any citizen who elected this city council. There are 9 of us, 7 of us voted for this intergovernmental agreement, which I would remind everybody will not go in place. There's a paragraph in the intergovernmental agreement that says that this agreement will only go in place if the voters approve of it. So this is the mechanism by which stormwater funding through this fee would be implemented if the voters approve of it. This is not something that's being forced down your throats. I plan to, when I get my ballot and I get all the pertinent information, I will make the decision about whether or not I am going to vote yes on it. And I think that we can entrust the rest of the citizens in the Pikes Peak region to do the same. If they pass it, we've got a mechanism and an agreement about how it's going to work. If they don't, we'll have to go back to square one to figure out how to address this challenge to our health and safety. And it is a challenge to our health and safety. We've seen problems with our property, with our lives, with our infrastructure caused by stormwater, and it's about time we addressed it. I think it's telling when the mayor said that it doesn't help our streets and sidewalks. What he has proposed is repurposing some bonds, borrowing money to put a short-term fix on stormwater. It does nothing for the long-term funding. but he wants to have a mayoral slush fund to use on capital projects he'd like to be prioritized with no long-term plan on how to handle this threat to health and safety. Lastly, what I'd like to say is, he offered some examples of how stormwater is being handled, and I believe our city staff is doing a great job with the resources that they have. But what we heard today are some closeout of some emergency funds that were requested in April, right after we were seated as city council. One of those projects was going into the planning and design 16 months later. So I think it's time that we actually take this problem and do something about it, and this is a step in the right direction, acknowledging and respecting that citizens should have the opportunity to vote whether or not they would agree to this fee. Thank you.
Councilmember Snyder.
Hi, Councilmember Snyder from Colorado Springs. I had the honor of being on the original Stormwater Task Force back in August of 2012. During my 2 years of serving on the task force and attending dozens and dozens of meetings, I got access to information, I got access to research, and I got access to data to show the effects of the years and years of stormwater maintenance neglect from not just the city of Colorado Springs, but the whole county. And then I saw the Stormwater Task Force come together, form a plan, give options for some long-term sustainable solutions, and that's what we have in the IGA in front of us. We've, as a region, have chosen to, in my opinion, not address sustainable funding for stormwater across the region. This IGA, crafted by the citizens of the Stormwater Task Force, have a solution, and we'll leave it up to the voters in November to vote on it. Thanks.
And I think our final speaker is Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Dave. I'm Don Knight, the representative for District 1, and I'm also one of the 2 people that voted no yesterday. And even though I voted no, and as I stated yesterday, the reason I did so, there was just one issue that I still have concerns with, which is enough to put me into that category. But personally, I am glad that this is going forward. It is a solution. It is a solution to a problem that we have, and it's going to go forward, and I'm glad it's going forward for 2 reasons. Number one, as Councilmember Miller and others have said, it won't go forward if the voters don't approve it. So the very next step is that the voters will get a chance to decide. And that language has not been chiseled in stone yet. That is going to be worked. There are some things that we can do better in the language, and we will be doing that, or the commissioners will be doing that. The other part that will go forward is the one heartburn I had is the emergency fund, and whether that comes back to the city or not, there are other opportunities to address that. We haven't done our bylaws yet. So, and I will still be fighting that battle, but it doesn't mean that we got to sink the ship to not do that battle. We can still go forward on that. And finally, let's say as a retired Air Force, 26 years Air Force officer with integrity first, always prided myself on that. And I'll just add to what the others say about being dismayed at some of the factual information that was passed out in the last 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That pretty much concludes what we have to say. We'll be here, obviously, for questions. I do want to make one final point to all of us and to everyone in the city, and that is that this fee will not, that we are proposing, will not rise for 20 years. That's a commitment that will be made clear in the ballot language. So, thank you very much.